thank you for coming today. Somebody that was very experienced, he says, never speak the last day of the Congress. And here I am, last day, and it's a Friday, so I hope you help me out here and make my speech smooth and for all of us who love the milling industry. First, I'd like to congratulate and say happy day to all journalists being here. Second, the production cabinet in the province, my dear friend Luis Macario, for making me feel part of this Congress, and all of those here, national, city, and province officers, and also the milling entrepreneurs, many from Argentina, many from Brazil. We thank you for being here. But I also want you to know that we have visitors from, like, for example, the president of the milling industry in Peru, Alex, thank you for being here. Jaime Jimenez from the Colombian milling industry. We have the president of the Paraguayan milling industry, the president of the Uruguayan milling industry. So we made it. Thank you. Thank you for being here. And the great Bernardo Aliu. Yesterday I melted when you spoke, Bernardo. Thank you. For those of us who are in the milling industry, we really thank you for that. Let me start. So, Argentine mills. Why are we so passionate about this business? But before I talk about the mills and the milling industry, I want to talk about the value, the added value, and the importance of adding value to what comes from the farms. These are two definitions that I found that somehow illustrate what I'm talking about, but the main definition of what we're talking about is that the wheat chain today is 8% of all the chains, agro-food chains, no more and no less than the wheat chain. Production, milling, pasta manufacturers, frozen pasta, all of those that manufacture wheat are 160,000 jobs. And I'd like to talk to Roberto Bizan. In 2015, do you remember the wheat production that we had in 2015? So these numbers are now teeny tiny. We read the covers of newspapers with sectors that perhaps employ maybe 30% of this number of people. 160,000 jobs, and they all depend on what you guys do, you guys here. So I think we deserve continuing with this and continue organizing these kind of events. This is not a small thing, and apart from 160,000 jobs, 77% of those jobs are in the manufacturing industry. Do you understand that, right? Out of 160,000 jobs, 77% of those 160,000 are in the manufacturing jobs. I didn't see all the presentations in this Congress, but I wanted to introduce you to the milling industry, speaking about this, because for all of those here, all the public officers here, we want you to give this wheat chain the value that it deserves, the important it deserves. Why am I saying that the farm is the engine and the industry is the turbine? I want to thank all the farmers in the country, because if they hadn't given us the tons of wheat that they've given us, we wouldn't be here today. So I take my hat off for you. So what is it to add value? I just I just heard from the minister how much wheat and flour and what it represents to the regional economy, having so many industries around it. I'm not going to bore you with this, but take a look at this column. When you export 1 ton of wheat, you multiply that times 13, and by 16 the wheat ton. That means more jobs. That means revenues. That means we can rest assured that there is a great food chain such as this one. Now I'm going to talk about us. I hope my Brazilian colleagues don't get scared from everything that we still have to do. I'm going to talk about milling. What is milling in Argentina? It's just this. With a capacity of 13.3 million tons of wheat, an annual milling of 5.8 million tons. Remember these numbers: 13.3 of potential capacity, 5.8 million tons of yearly milling, 84 kilograms of consumption in our country per capita. Thank God we have great consumption. I hope that Dr. Comichot doesn't come here and says that we have to, or I hope he comes and says that we need to consume more wheat. So we have to listen to him. Exports that are growing with these fluctuations in our economy, export taxes that go up and go down, and who do we sell? How do we consume that? 68% in bakery products, 4% in this industrial bakery, pasta 11%, cookies 7%, and thank God in Argentina we have still housewives that like to work with the flour and make pasta at home. What does the milling industry mean to Argentina? Every time we put 1 peso in the rest of the economies, we spread out about 3. And every time we put 1 workstation in our milling industry, we create 2.5 jobs in other industries. So I'm not going to ask you to put up your hands, those of you who are in the milling industry, but we have 160 milling plants, 161 to be exact, 143 companies. Some of those companies have more production plants. That's why we are 161. And the most interesting thing about this chart is that out of those 143 companies, 84 of them are exporting and 102 are in conditions to export. On a personal note, I don't know that many industrial links, especially in terms of first industrialization with small and medium enterprises that are in conditions to export. This is historical data, and it's even more significant to tell you that out of those 100 companies that are in conditions to export, 50% of them are in the industry for more than 50 years. And there is one of them that is older than the national constitution in Argentina. So we didn't have a constitution yet, and that mill already produced flour. So you understand of the capacity I'm talking about. This sector really adds value. Then the capacity, also how many companies we have with daily capacity. In general, they're all SMEs, and most of them are around 24 to 160, 34 tons a day. This is a distribution of all the mills. Buenos Aires, Córdoba, and Santa Fe have always had the bulk of the number of production plants, mostly because of the accessibility they have to the wheat. Here we have wheat mostly in Santa Fe, Córdoba, Buenos Aires, and as wheat started expanding, then we find more mills. And if I asked you 5 years ago that we're going to have a mill in Salta, five in fact, you would say, come on, be serious. But we do have mills in Salta, Chaco, Jujuy. So we can say that it's an industry that became in some places in the country, as the map shows, has transformed the regional economies and has become a whole regional economy, and it really sustains the regional economies. The blue points, we can see the milling companies. However, the barrier is that the gap is wider, but we still have most of these companies here in Córdoba, in Buenos Aires and in Santa Fe. I wanted you to help me see how do we reveal this mystery. This curve you find here, the blue curve, is the exports. Sorry, the blue is the wheat production. The blue bars is the flour exports. The red bars is the flour consumption, and the green line is the growth of the milling capacity in Argentina. As you can see, is indirectly proportional. We have more production capacity in our industry, in our business, but we have less Argentine market because people consume the same amount of flour. So what do we do? And this is the same kind of discussion I have with the entrepreneurs. Do we close or do we export? It's either one. Do we close, do we fold, or do we export? Of course, here, I don't want anybody to close or fold. We are in a very interesting expansion program now. Regardless of the situation that we have in public policies, and we can debate that for a long time, we need to give this industry the certainty. We need to give certainty to the 13 million tons that we are capable of milling. We are really far from that. I'm saying that we are milling 5.8 million tons, and I need, in order to have full employment, I need 13 million. But we believe that we are on the right track. Companies have invested in their sales areas, in their sales departments, and in the technology departments as well. But we still have a long way to go. Why is that? If we say that we have the capacity to supply for 2.5 Argentinian populations, we have to think, okay, who is our target audience or our target customers? Clearly, we have a lot to do. And how can we imagine, how can a milling industry worker imagine the industry? If we were the third exporters in the world, and then in 2011, when the export barriers of wheat and flour and corn closed, we went all the way to the 35th position. Can you understand a company that is trying to project a investment with public policies that one day take you to the third position and then the next day you disappear you are swiped away from the map? That's why industry workers and we need certainty. We need to know what we are going to face next year, despite the fact that it sometimes is hard to have those kind of certainties. Nowadays, we start having a clearer idea, and that's why the milling industry must be among the 5th most important export countries. This is the curve, the export curve. In 2008, we export almost 13 million tons a year, and in 2018, 158,000. And this year, if nothing complicates the situation, we will be between 700 and 800,000 tons, and we hope to be able to take that leap. These are the destinations for our wheat. We have the best exporters in the world. They all live here in our country. When we gave them a free pass for them to start, they revolutionized the market. 57, 52, I don't remember, but Argentine wheat is all over the world. But with flour, it's short. 95% of the flour that we export is in only 2 countries, Brazil and Bolivia, and a little bit of flour that goes with some tons of, like test tons, in Angola and in Central America. So that is where the challenge actually is. The first link already did the job. They produced the wheat that we needed. The one that sells it is doing his or her job. They're doing their job. We have to pay attention now on how we develop the first or second industrialization process, and let the wheat go in the form of flours or pasta or frozen bread or croissants, we don't have a link that outstands or highlights more. And when all the links really work together, if the farmer does not have the certainty that he's going to produce this particular grain, and that he will have the exports, and that the milling, that there is competence for that offer and demand, they will feel uncertain to continue producing wheat. So these are the markets where we can go. That is the amount of, so how big the balloon is how much wheat they consume, they buy from us. Look at the number of countries that import flour. Yesterday when Mr. Bernard talked about the world wheat market, flour market, we are going to try to grow little by little, trying to show the quality of our flours based on the wheat that we produce, and trying with what really outstands from us to show the technical qualities of our flour, and traveling, such as when we did sell to Central America, and we traveled with bakers that would show the qualities of our flour. And I want to be Turkey. This is the work that Turkey is doing with the milling industry. This is the added value development. I'm not going to go into the subsidy plan that they have. I'm talking about the industrial development. These are the markets for Argentina, and these are the actual markets for Turkey. Can we do it? Of course we can. It's just a matter of having a strategic plan that is logical, that has as little turbulence as possible. I want to introduce you to the new goal, a strategic goal of the milling industry. We want for the next year, or in the next 2 years, to be able to export 2 million tons of wheat in the form of flour. That is our goal. We have the tools. We're not asking anyone any favors. We just want market certainty, and we want the milling producers have all the conditions to do this. And why do we want to do this? Because, as I said before, this is the challenge for the whole wheat chain. Production is not going to be out of it. Production is not going to be out of it. Industrialization is not going to be out of it. If we have to be convinced that we are capable of doing it. And in order to do that, we need more congresses like this one. We need to tell you what the strategic plans for each one of those links are. And as what happened with the National Wheat Group, they have to, or program, they need to have success with that committee, and I think that's a key to having success with all the chain.